We've taken a bit of a break for almost a month on our sermon series, the Sermon on the Mount. Well, we want to get back at it now. We found that the Sermon on the Mount is a sermon that is given to the disciples, but overheard by a larger crowd. It is about the kingdom of God and being captivated by it. To be a good citizen of the kingdom, we need to keep the kingdom in the front of our vision, not to be distracted by people or emotions or insults or hurts or anger, bitterness. We're going to come back to some of these topics a little bit later in the Sermon on the Mount, particularly lack of forgiveness and holding on to anger and slights against us. But the main focus of chapter 6, where we're going to start today, goes back and forth between two things that are distractions: money and spiritual disciplines. Now, one of those is an obvious distraction: money and material things. But the second can seem really strange. Can prayer and our spiritual duties distract us from the kingdom of God? The answer is yes, absolutely. And you may want to cry out, prayer is a distraction to the things of God? That seem odd? Shouldn't it draw us to God? And the answer is absolutely. Are you going to come and tell me I shouldn't pray? And the answer is absolutely not. But over the next several weeks, we're going to discover that there are good things that God has given us that should help us to become good citizens of the kingdom of God, that instead can sometimes, if we misuse them, distract us. And today we're going to see how even finances, the call to generosity, the call to giving, can distract us from being captivated by the kingdom of God. Prayer we're going to come to over the next few weeks. So, come with that thought in mind. How can prayer distract us? I'm going to bring us to a screen here. Be careful not to do your acts of righteousness before men to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. This is interesting. A couple weeks ago, or actually a couple months ago, when we started this sermon series, we heard that we are not to hide our light, but instead shine before the world. Yet here, remain hidden. Stay in the shadows when your light shines. It's a big change in less than a chapter. Where's this going? Let me ask you, have you ever felt unappreciated? Ever felt unappreciated? My bet is we could all at some point say yes. No one wants to be underappreciated. I find that I often have to watch my attitude. And feelings of underappreciation can lead us to anger and frustration in relationships. It can lead to anger and frustration in organizations and families and workplaces, and indeed in churches. I put all this effort into things, and no one ever seems to notice. Part of many volunteer organizations beyond just the church. And I can tell you that's one of the biggest sources of frustration of why people quit volunteering, is they feel unappreciated. I hear it often. I hear it about people talk about their spouses. Boy, they don't appreciate me. I hear it from parents about their kids. And I hear from kids about their parents. I hear people say it about their friends, co-workers, associates, a little bit more distant family, that someone, maybe everyone, takes me for granted. They do not see the effort, the resources, the finances, the time that I have expended, and thus they do not appreciate me. And maybe sometimes I might even fantasize about leaving them high and dry because that'll learn them. And it causes an aching within my heart. Often might develop into what psychologists will call a martyr syndrome, where I learn to really feel sorry for myself and feed off the feeling that I've got, that I sacrifice so much for everyone. I don't get anything in return, but I'm such a sacrificer. Call that a martyr syndrome. Even if we're the type who tries to hide in the shadows, we might be a little more shy. We all desire a degree of praise and acknowledgement. Saw a cartoon. There's a middle-aged, very well-dressed man standing beside an older, equally well-dressed man with a banner in the background said, "Happy Retirement." And the younger man saying, "This company cannot afford a gold watch, but here's a phone number that'll tell you the time." Feeling underappreciated. Yet Christ here says we should strive to be underappreciated. It goes against the grain. If appreciation on earth is the goal, you can get that. We can work really hard to have the world sing our praises, and you know what? It can happen. But the true citizen of the kingdom of God wants the king to be praised, to work and to do and to give for the sake of Jesus Christ. I'm not saying, I don't think Jesus is saying that if somebody says thank you for your hard work, they're going to lose a reward in heaven. But does it make a difference to my attitude? Do I get sour when nobody says thank you? Do I become prideful when I do receive praise? Why does this matter so much to Jesus? We're going to find out as we go through all of chapter 6 of Matthew that it indeed makes a big difference. Let's look at a couple of verses here. "So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets as the hypocrites in the synagogue and on the streets, to be honored by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be secret." Do you know what? Over-appreciation works much better for me. I'd rather people over-appreciate me. Now this is kind of a funny little passage. I'm going to move around a little bit. Come on to this jacket. Oh, that might be a little loud. The offering plate goes around. I'm going to pick on Nels because I know he can take it. The offering plate comes here, and I'm looking over his shoulder and saying, "Nels, that is a great check. Thank you so much. Boy, that's generous." And comes back to Danny, and I look at what he's given and say, "Well, that wasn't bad. Better luck next time." I know he can take it too. What do we want that? I hope we don't. Do you know what? Generosity is not our goal. Generosity is a repercussion. Our goal is to worship God as good citizens. Generosity, any kind, whether we're talking about money or time or effort, comes because of what God is doing in my heart. A few weeks ago we saw that if somebody tries to rip me off, I'm not necessarily going to put myself in situations where I can get ripped off, but if they do, it's okay. I may try to avoid it, but money is not what a citizen of the kingdom is all about. To be a true citizen of the kingdom is one who is concerned about the kingdom, not myself. And so when I am generous, am I worried about praise? Am I worried about self-congratulations? Or about Jesus? Go back one verse on the screen here. We find the word hypocrites. Many of us have an idea what that means. In the original Greek, it was somebody who pretended. Could be an actor. It could be a spokesperson for a product. There's more to it. In Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, in particular, A hypocrite is always someone who wants everyone to think that they are worshiping God, but they are truly seeking after their own glory. Somebody who wants everybody else to think that they're worshiping God, but they really want to be praised themselves. Later on, I tell you the truth, they have received. This word "have received" in the Greek